Are you sitting down here?
Yeah, I'm happy to if you want. I was going to sit outside.
Right, just went with.
Okay, recording.
Hello, I'm Dara Hodgkinson. I am a user experience designer at 3, and I'm here to talk about my career and why I do what I do, what it's all about. And I'm doing this with Women in Tech at 3 in conjunction with LetsLocalise. So I'm going to share my screen. So what I'm going to talk to today, I'm going to talk about the best advice I've been given. I'm a little bit biased because it's from my mum, but it's still advice that I use today, and it's really helped me out. What I did at university, I'll talk about that really briefly, explain what user experience is, mainly what it means to me, and show you an example of what it is I do. Talk about my team, because without them I really couldn't do my job. One of the highlights of my career so far, show you some UX resources, so where to find some information, and talk to you about Pure Recharge, which is a little business that I run with my husband, but I'll get into all that in a little bit. So, just start. Right, so the best advice I've been given, which was from my mum, was do what you love. And this came through when I was selecting my GCSE choices, to A-levels, to what I do at uni, to where I work and what I do. She said this to me because I didn't quite know what I wanted to be. You know, you always get asked, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I'm like, well, I don't really know, but I like design. I like the idea of designing something, creating something, and then seeing it come to life. I like the idea of figuring something out, making something complex simple, or just the fact that I can create something new. I really like that. And also this, so as well as helping me with the subjects and my career, it also helped me because my career started off as a web designer, and then I went into UX, and it's always because I found something interesting. I've either done the research I needed to, or spent extra time learning, and it's been fine because I've enjoyed it. You know, I really do enjoy what I do. So I'll start with university. I won't go back to school days, but at university, I went to Brunel University in Uxbridge, and there I did a course called Multimedia Technology and Design. So I didn't, as I said, I didn't quite know where it was I wanted to end up, but I knew that I wanted to work with computers. I wanted to work in design. And this course was great because we learned about video, we learned about web design, development, databases, photography. You know, like there were so many things that were in this course and gave me a really good foundation for what I do now. Also, one of the great things about this course was that it was a 4-year course, and in the 3rd year we were able to do work experience. So it's called a sandwich course. I'm not sure if they're still around, hopefully they are, but one of the things I liked about it was that because I could get 1 year's work experience, I could come out of uni and potentially stand out against you know, a few other people, to say I've worked in X company, and I now, as well as, you know, kind of doing all the book learning, I've also got the practical experience of working in an office, working in a team, putting my skills to good use. And I had a great time in that 1 year off. I met some amazing people who I'm still in touch with now. My manager then both of them were really lovely people, really helped me understand what it is I wanted to learn, and gave me the freedom. So as well as having my day-to-day tasks, I also had the freedom to learn new things and actually push what I wanted to do. So I ended up working in a company doing internal communications, and I was working on their intranet. So there were, you know, day-to-day tasks that we had to do, but also I was able to redesign the intranet and make it simpler and, you know, make it more user-friendly, which was really exciting. Which was a really exciting thing to do. So user experience. As I said, I started off as a web designer and then came into UX. And I did that because I was in my first few jobs as a web designer, I was working alongside user experience designers, but back then they were called information architects. And I got to learn that, for example, a website is not just about making the content look pretty. It's all about how people interact with that particular content as well. So you could have a nice design, but actually it may not work. And one of the great things I learned was that we could do some testing and see how people use things. And it was about figuring out how things worked. And a lot of the skills that I'd learned through my university course, whether it was the coding or the design aspect, or databases, all of that really helped. And for me, UX is about this top line here, making something simple, not having things, you know, complicated. We need to get a user from A to B. So just to break things down. So user experience for me in my role is about either the website or an app. A customer is coming onto this app to do a particular thing. So for example, in my role at 3, a user could be coming onto the website to buy a phone and a SIM, or just a phone. And we need to make that journey really simple and really clear, so people don't get lost, people don't get frustrated. It's a really simple transaction, and also that they understand what it is they're doing. So that's what UX means to me. This is an example of some of the do. So to start with, well, and create wireframes, but before you get to the wireframe stage, you need to understand what it is the user needs to do on this page. You always need to keep, well, for me, I always keep the user in mind when I'm doing things. You need to understand why they're there, what it is they're trying to do, understand that people don't have a lot of time. So having, you know, like a lot of text, a lot of information isn't really useful to people. Looking at what your competitors are doing as well, because as much as you know, your site needs to stand out and be simple, you also need to understand what people are used to. So looking at what your competitors are doing helps you understand what your customers are currently doing somewhere else, and can you improve on that? Can you make that better? Well, that's all the, you know, that's all the question I ask myself. So once I've done that initial research, I then create these wireframes, and on the wireframes there are notes for various people in my team, and I'll go into that a little bit later. But the reason why you want to create a wireframe before you get into the design is so that you can make sure that what you're trying to do is clear. There's no point in spending time in the design and then getting your site built, costing your company lots of money, if actually what your idea is initially isn't clear enough. And one of the great things is, well, if there's time, you can do some testing as well. So you can take those wireframes and meet with a group of people. At the moment, it's obviously all online, but you can test out your journey from start to finish. So for example, for this, you might start on the home page and see, can people get to this page easily? Is the information on this page clear? Can they find what it is you need them to find? And also understand what they need to do. So although you have an idea of what you want them to do, you also need to understand what it is they want to do, because they could be two different things. Once you've done your testing, you then get your results, and from those results, it's really great because you can go back to your stakeholders, you can go back to the people that have asked you to do this project and say, okay, I've done some tests and actually this works really well, or the idea that you've asked me to do doesn't actually work, and I think this is better, so perhaps you may want to test two things. But user experience testing, user testing is a really great way of knowing that you're on the right track. The team. Okay, so we work in what's called a Scrum team. I won't go into what Scrum means because I'm not a Scrum Master, but someone else can explain that bit. But my view of my team is that I need their help. I need their help in designing a really good experience. So as much as I would have done the research on competitors and know what it is I've been asked to do on the page, you've got people in your team that bring their own skills into it. And I think, in my opinion, if you work together, you can create a much better project. So for example, you'll have, well, in my team now, I've got someone who has a lot of experience in SEO, so search engine optimization. So they'll know the key words and the key things you need to do on your page or within your journey to help the user journey and to make things easier. You'll have a designer. So your designer will be aware of the current styles and templates and assets that you can use on the particular page. So although, for example, I may have designed something, let's say I've got like 3 boxes in a row, and they'll say to me, no, we can't quite do that. Or have you thought about this? And that's great when someone else can bring in ideas as well. You've got a copywriter, and oh my goodness, copywriters are, well, everyone in the team is amazing, but copywriters are really great, because when you're doing your testing, you want to make sure that the words you're using are really great and really helpful for the user. You have a developer. So with your developer, you need to they need to make your design work. So if you understand some of the basics of code, I'm not saying you have to be a great coder, I'm not. I think if I were to be a developer, I'd be a junior developer, but that just means that I understand HTML and CSS and the structure and how a page is built. I may not be able to build it myself, but I know how to make sure that the layout I've designed and the layout that we want to go forward with is actually going to work. If you don't know that, and you've done your wireframes, the design's been done, you've got your copy, and it goes to the developer and they can't build it, you have to go back to the beginning, and no one's got time for that. Each project has you can't have an unlimited time on a particular project. So if you understand the basics, when you give your work over, you may have to change a few things, fine, no one's expecting you to know everything, but if you understand the basics, then that will really help. Also involving everybody, involving your developer, your copywriter, everyone in your team from the beginning, you'll come out with a better project in the end. Not everyone works this way. I'm just going to say that, and not everyone has to work this way. It's just the way I choose to work, and it's worked well for me in the past. And going back to that advice, it's what I love doing. I don't feel I can come up with something that will be the best it can be if I don't involve my team. You also have other people in the team. I'm sorry if I've left people out, but you'll have a Scrum Master who will make sure that you are not overloaded with too many different types of things, keep the teams organized, structure your meetings, and I could go on, but I won't. So that's if I want to say on the team. Right, so one of the highlights of my career, when I first started out when I first became a contractor. So I'm a user experience designer and I'm also a contractor, which means that I'm not a full-time employee. So I have my own company, and that company gets employed by someone. It's almost sort of part-time, so you're not necessarily there in a full-time role that where you think you're going to be there in a company for 5-10 years. You may only be there a short time. You could be there a day, a week, a month, 6 months, etc. And this was from the very first contract that I took on, and it was a very scary moment for me, going from a secure job you know, where you're a permanent member of, I mean, like, nothing's ever secure because redundancies happen, and they have happened a lot throughout my career, or seen other people go through them. So nothing's ever secure, but what you will get with contracting is the flexibility. And one of the things that happened in my very first contract was that I got to go to Shanghai. It was absolutely amazing. I was doing some work for a bank. I was helping to redesign their website. I was part of a team of people, and I got to go to Shanghai for a week to explain to our clients over there, our stakeholders, to explain to them what this new design was about and how they were going to implement it, how they could put their new content on there. And it was really exciting for me. I went on my own. I was the only person in my company to go over. I went with one of the companies that we worked with, and it was a really great experience. So that was really cool. Right, resources. So there are many places you can go now to find some information. Back when I started, and it feels like a long time ago, but I guess in the grand scheme of things, it really wasn't. But there weren't that many places to go. Places like, I think I started off looking at websites like Smashing Magazine comes to mind. But now these are the places that I go to. I'm going to highlight the Nielsen Norman Group. They are absolutely amazing. The information that you get there, the advice that you get there has been tested. They do research. They wouldn't give you information unless it's been researched first, and they do their own research. They do courses as well. So if you're interested in UX and you want to do some online courses or learn more of what it's about, I definitely recommend going there. Other things you can do as well that I've done is you can go to conferences. So at the moment, a lot of conferences are online, which makes it so much more accessible. So for example, now I live in Berkshire, and a lot of the conferences I used to go to were in London, and I have a little boy now, so going into London is not that accessible for me right now, but I know that I can actually do courses online. So so doing UX conferences online is another great place to have a look. So yeah, so that's my UX sort of, or my sort of look or outlook on UX, and I hope that's been interesting. In my other life, I run a company with my husband called Pure Recharge. So this company started quite a year ago, and we started off making smoothie mixes. Dry smoothie mixes. We started making them, you know, for ourselves, because we were doing lots of sports at the time, going to competitions, etc., and found that when we got there, all the food that was on offer were things like chips and burgers, and you think, look, I've spent months training for this particular event. I don't just want, you know, chips and a burger. I want something healthy. So we started making these mixes to kind of take along for ourselves, and then we thought, well, if we maybe got a stall to see how it would work, but is this something that people would be interested in? So we started doing that, and then this picture on the right is of myself and my husband Joe. We run the company together. We do everything ourselves, from the design of the label to the ingredients. We've hand packed all the pouches. All the work's done by us, and it's usually done in the evenings and weekends. And so this photo is of our first exhibition in London, and I think that was at the Excel Centre in London. That was really exciting for us. Recently, we've started making sorbets. So this is our latest product. It's an Acai Sorbet, and we make it ourselves. So normally in the UK, when you buy acai, which is a Brazilian berry, you normally buy it as a puree, and then you have to blend it with other fruits in a liquid. And so it's something that is a bit tedious to make. So what we've done is sort of done all the hard work and already created the sorbet, so you just grab the pot and a spoon. Yeah, so that's, and this is our little side project, and it's something that we do alongside our jobs. So we both work 4 days a week, and and which allows us a bit of time to work on the company and also have some family time as well. As I said, we have a little boy who's nearly 2, and kind of having this company is it's a really great way for us to show our creativity. It's something fun for us to do on weekends when we go to events. And also I've actually been able to use, you know, some of the skills I learned at uni, some of the skills that I do now in my job. I get to incorporate some of that as well. But anyway, that's me. And that's a little bit of my life and what I've been up to in my career.
Thank you very much, Dara. That was really interesting. I've got a question for you actually.
Okay.
If you could do anything different, what would it be and why?
Oh, you know, I used to think, or I used to say that I wanted to be a developer. I wanted to be a web developer. So just before I started contracting as a UX and designer, I wanted to kind of go back and study web development, because I thought that's where I'd be able to get my analytical skills through. And then I got introduced to UX and actually found that I could use my analytical skills within UX and still have a creative side as well. But now, if I could do anything differently, I would. I don't know. Maybe I'd have started contracting earlier. You know, maybe I'd have got into UX a little bit earlier, rather than stayed in design for as long as I did. But then saying that, if I did, I wouldn't have learnt, you know, the design skills that I've got now. So although I don't consider myself a creative designer at all, and I will always ask the designers that I work with for help whenever I'm designing something, I still like to think that I can do things in Photoshop. But no, I generally don't think I would really change anything. I've enjoyed my career so far, and it's been really fun, and I've no idea what I'll be doing in 5 years' time.
Thank you. And then for students watching this, what advice would you give to someone leaving school or coming out of school or uni to get into UX?
You need to be aware of the things around you. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but just to keep an eye out for what's happening around you. So keep an eye out for different websites. Don't just go to the same website every single day or use the same apps all the time. Try new things. You know, do something obscure, because you don't want to sort of, if your only influences are really small and narrow, you're not going to be able to, you know, try new things. So explore, do some research, you know, go to online conferences, speak to people as well, ask for help, and get some experience too. And by that, I don't just mean knock on people's doors and get a job, because yes, of course, that will help. But you can also create your own projects, you know, to build up your portfolio. Yeah, so just keep your eyes open and keep aware of what's changing. Things change all the time. You know, you've got things become popular and unpopular. There are new apps and new websites coming out all the time. So just keep up to date with what's happening.
Brilliant, thank you. And what about soft skills? What sort of soft skills or qualifications would someone need to move into this?
Okay, so soft skills, I'd say people skills. I think you need to be a people person, probably for most jobs within this industry, I think. Not that you don't need to be the life and soul of the party, but you just need to get on with people so that they hopefully enjoy working with you, and then will ask you back. Learn from people as well. You need to learn from the people around you. Don't just assume that you are great at your job and that's it. You know, you can always learn from other people and use those influences within your job. Courses and skills wise, well, so I did multimedia technology and design, but you can come into UX from doing, you know, psychology, and actually psychology would be really great. And I think if, you know, if I had the time, I probably would do a degree in psychology now, because it would really help. But you just start reading online, you know, find the blogs and find the groups. There are so many, like, really lucky now, especially with Facebooks. You've got groups that have, you know, user experience designers or other type of designers in, you know, they will help. I think it's especially now with what's going on, people definitely want to help. So yeah, so to just find the groups online where people are and ask for help.
Thanks. And I think there's one final question from the audience. So what internships would you recommend, or do you know of any internships that anyone could go for, as far as sort of practical experience?
I don't know. I don't know, like maybe 3 might be offering some, I'm not sure. But if you're looking for something to give you all-round skills, so if you're not quite sure what it is you want to get into, perhaps working for a design agency, because there'll be lots of different roles within there, and potentially if you're doing an internship in there, you might be able to do some work, you know, in design, maybe a little bit of development. They might have some photography work they need doing, they may need, you know, some video for another project. So I would recommend starting agency wise, and that's what I did, and it worked really well for me. You don't have to, but that's just the role that I took, and I sort of only know my own path. And yeah, I found actually that working for an agency gave me really good groundings, because you can, as I said, keep saying, learn from the people around you. If that's helpful.
Yeah, that's brilliant, Dara. Thank you so much for your time. I hope everyone found that useful. Yeah, thank you for sharing your story, Dara.
Thank you. I hope it was interesting. Because I keep saying I haven't done anything extraordinary. I don't think I've done anything different or wildly amazing, but I've gotten to where I am now, and I'm really happy with how things have gone.
Well, apart from setting up your own company as well, that's pretty amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't recommend that. It's hard. It's hard. I mean,
That's hard work.
It is very rewarding in a completely different way to my UX life, but it's been a lot of fun and really educational, and yes, hard, but good, because we've got the support. We said my husband and I do it together, so you know, working and coming together has been really great.
So actually, sorry, just one more question following on from the entrepreneurial, because I think, you know, a lot of students might be interested in that. What advice would you give to someone who wanted to start their own company?
Do something you love. Do something that you're interested in. So for me, I love the idea of having my own company in general. I always have done. Both my parents have run their own companies, successful companies, and it's kind of always something that I wanted to do. I think I thought that I may have had a design agency at some point. I mean, you know, who knows? I'm only in my 30s, so anything's possible. But yeah, it's what else could you do? Do your research as well, you know, find out how other companies that you know, something similar that you're interested in, find out how they work, you know, and make, as I said, make sure that you really like it, because it is hard work, especially if you're trying to do it on the side of work, or even if you're not, if you come out of uni or, you know, college, wherever, and you want to jump straight into having your own company, you will need to do your research, and you will need a support network. Networking is a really good way to do that as well. So for example, I'm part of quite a few networking groups, and I say quite a few, 2, and they're really helpful. there are other people, so many people now are starting their own businesses, and it's really, really great to see. It's really, really nice to see that, you know, we're not all just kind of big, massive corporates, you know, like there are individual people, you know, behind them. Show people how you do things as well. I'm saying that, and I know that I need to do that more in my own company too, but I think it's really nice when people want to start their own business, but definitely do research. Definitely do your research.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Dara. So obviously this is being recorded so people can watch this back. So thank you very much for your time and for sharing your journey.